Okay. Hi, everyone.
Mhm.
Welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to have a discussion with a Microsoft engineer. And I am really glad that Mohit agreed to talk to me today and share his experience and the interview experience, how he prepared. And so far, he has been working with Microsoft for how many years now, Mohit?
1.5 years.
Okay. So yeah. So today Mohit is going to walk us through about his uh, brief introduction, his career journey, how it started from the college, and how he did the preparation, and what are some of the best resources we have to prepare for software engineering interviews at this company. So Mohit, first of all, thank you very much for joining this call, and it is going to be very helpful for our viewers to get this experience from you. So, how about we start with a brief introduction about you?
Hi CJ, thanks for inviting me. Hello viewers, my name is Mohit. I am working at Microsoft right now. I've been working here for like 1.5 years now, and I've been in this industry for 6 years. Yes, so I passed out in 2015, and in August it'll be 6 years for me. So yeah.
Okay. So, hi Mohit. So you said that you have been working in Microsoft for 1.5 years now. So, like, what is the which position did you join? Like, did you join as an engineer or did you join as a senior engineer? Like, tell us more about it.
So I joined Microsoft as a software engineer too. So within Microsoft, every level has, you can say, like every designation has two internal levels. So I joined as the junior level of software engineer too. So it's like the way it works in Microsoft, it's like different for all companies. So like software engineers, there are two levels. Then software engineer two has two levels. Then seniors has two levels. After that, it
Okay.
then becomes three levels. So, but in my case, I joined as an SD2 in the lower level.
Hmm. Okay. So Mohit, so you said that you have been working in this industry from last almost 6 years now, and from the past 1.5 years, you have been working with Microsoft, and as you very well know that Microsoft is a very reputed company, and a lot of our viewers and a lot of the students who are currently in the college are like really preparing very hard for these kinds of companies, and would really love to know uh, how was your journey from your from the college, or uh, like how did you prepare, how how were you feeling when you were in the college, and like were you lost or did you have some guidance at that time, like how did it go, how did your college phase and the preparation phase go, like.
CJ. So I went to Manipal for my undergraduate, my bachelor's degree, and my majors during my bachelor's was automobile engineering. So before I had taken up the course, I was quite into cars, so I thought of taking that. And so more also just it was not just my passion that drove me, but also there's a practical side. So when I was actually about to join college, the colleges that I was getting to join like most of them were not offering CS to me. So Manipal was the one that was slightly higher rank, but was not offering CS. So I at that time decided to choose Manipal, a higher rank college, and take up non-CS, then go for a lower college and lower rank college and choose CS. So basically, I ended up doing the automobile course for the 4 years, and it was mostly fun. I enjoyed it, but even during while I was in college itself, I kind of realized that maybe this is not my cup of tea from a career perspective. Like I really like cars, I still like them, but yeah, it was not something that I thought I could actually make a career out of. So which is when during the college time I kind of decided to make a switch. I decided to change tracks in a way.
So when
So
exactly in your college, like at what year did you finally take the call to move into software engineering full time?
I think I would say at the start of the fourth year itself. So during between my third and fourth years, like basically the sixth and seventh sem, during the summer vacations, I had gone for an internship, and that internship was quite an eye opener for me in terms of how exactly the automobile industry looks from the inside. What's the work culture, how things work inside, and how do I fit into the whole picture? So yes, that internship I would say was not really a good experience for me in terms of me enjoying and feeling at home. So it was in a way a decision factor for me to kind of realize that this is not really something that I want to do in the long term. So
Hmm.
yeah, beginning fourth year I decided to make the switch.
Okay, that's very nice. But if you see, like, you really have a software engineering background and you have an automobile engineering background, and you can really combine these two things in the future and really go for maybe working for Tesla and all, and you make cool
Yeah,
things. So
yeah,
yeah, so mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
go
That
ahead.
is something that that is something that I do dream sometimes. Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. Like, it is something that I find interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of students who get admission in the college, but they are not able to get into the computer science branch sometimes, and uh, they join a different branch, hoping that in the second year they will try to get an opportunity to change to the computer science branch and then maybe move into this industry. So, but as you said that you made that mindset switch in the fourth year itself while doing the automobile engineering, right? So, what exactly like did you start doing at the start of your fourth year, which actually started kicking you off in this side of the industry? Like, so before the mindset changed from an automobile engineer to a software engineer, that you want to do go for software engineering, and like before getting the first uh, job from a company. So like, what was that particular range of uh, experience looks like for you?
I would say, at least in my case, I had this advantage that I already knew coding beforehand. So I came from an ICSE school, so we had CS as a subject during my from class 7th to 12th actually. So I was actually pretty good at that. Like I really excelled at it. It was something that I really liked doing. Also, it was one of my favorite subjects. So you can see the basic fundamentals of coding was already there with me. Like I could write good programs. Like the only difference was at that time that what I thought, like the stuff that I like to do was actually called DS and algo, and was something like considered as a very important step for people to join a product company. So at
Yeah.
that time, I remember I used to use a website called as programmer.com, programmer with no E in the end. I'm not sure is it still online, but I used to like it used to have like very simple program. Think of it like in a hacker and light, very
Mhm.
simple questions that I used to enjoy doing just when I was free. It was sort of like a stress buster for me. So yeah, to actually answer your question, I would say the basic fundamentals of coding, of programming, and be able to join the industry and have the basic required skills was already there before even had come to college. So that was an advantage. The second thing is like within my college, we used to get this option of choosing two electives during our fourth and sixth sems, like yeah, in the second and the third years. So and in both the cases, I chose CS electives. So like in my fourth year, I chose C++ programming, and in my sixth year, in my sixth sem, sorry, I chose DBMS. So in a way, I could increase my own repertoire of like not just from knowing Java to also knowing C++, increase like knowing enough so that I could write, like logic. And DBM is also like, as we all know, like database management is like a very important component of software development. It's an like extremely extension component. So even that was something that I could add to my sort of like skill set, at least from a basic perspective. So that was there. So at least yeah. But now coming to the fourth year, when I actually realized that I want to switch and I really want to like stick to this plan of joining the CS industry, I started talking to a few friends of mine who were part of the CS field to understand like what exactly is required from an entry level person. So the stuff that I came to know from them was one should understand the core basic principles of SDLC. How exactly does a software, how do we like, how does like how exactly does one start initiating the process of like developing a software right from the requirement gathering phase to like going forward, like in understanding the problem at hand, uh, the entire like I won't go to the complete details, but like the basics that is involved, I tried to understand that. I went back and brushed my own programming skills, so I basically like started googling stuff, which was at the time this was 2014. So I'm not sure how these sites are still popular, but tutorials point and Java T point were quite helpful for me. So I basically went through those sites. I did everything that was told by them. And I'll be very honest, since I'd almost decided that I'll be switching over to the CS industry, so I was not really focused much on the placements of my own core branch.
Hmm.
So, and I could also devote, like, and with the CGP also, it was I kind of realized that, as long as I maintain like an 8 and an 8.5, it's fine. So I was not focusing much on the my core subjects as well. So I would say, like, having brushed my Java skills, understood how the SDLC works, understood a few other things that my friends suggested in terms of like how exactly one should be prepared from a job perspective, in terms of like the soft skills, the way one gives an interview and stuff. I would say I was slightly confident I could start giving interviews, but again, I had not given any interviews. So I would say, like, looking back, I was very, very ill prepared, like with the kind of preparation that we do nowadays with the interviews. So at that time, it was like, okay, like, okay, know, like, I've done some Java programming practice, DBMS, I've revised my concepts, like, these few other
Yeah.
things are done, is like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, but then it was a good start. I would say the real eye openers for me were the few CS companies that I took an interview, like, I sat for an interview. Okay, again, since I don't come from a CS branch, also I'm not even from a circuit branch. So a lot
Hmm.
of companies weren't even willing to give me an interview opportunity. But then there were a few, I would say two, three product companies. So I did sit for their interviews, and I would say even the first interview itself was so quite an eye opener in terms of my lack of preparedness, you can say, from the industry perspective. The kind of questions that they were asking was not something that I was very, like, I would say, I was not at all good at. So I would say I personally took this decision of kind of like, not having that high of an expectation that I would generally like directly join a product company. So I would say that, at least in my case, was a mindset change again, in terms of like lowering my own expectations of what I would be entering in. So this was also the time when the mass hiring companies came to my college. So I decided, like, okay, let us give TCS a try, and hopefully we can crack that, and maybe we could start my career with that. And once I actually joined the company, then it would be helpful for me to use those 1 or 2 years when I was in the company to actually understand how this industry works. Because
Hmm.
I just want to say this, because this is something that maybe not something that only the non-CS guys understand, and like CS guys not really familiar with that. It is one part to actually be prepared from an interview perspective, but then it's a totally then different thing to actually get the right info, like, what exactly is required from, the perspective
Yeah.
of you being able to crack the interview. And
Hmm.
also, you would say the circle that you hang around with, the help system, the support system. I would say that itself is hugely lacking for non-CS engineers, I would say.
Hmm.
So, like, within CS engineers, like, you could always just like talk to people about how exactly their interview experiences went, which company is hiring whom, how's the company culture and stuff. That I would say, and this kind of actually hung out, was existing for me for the entire first 2 years of my career. I didn't really have people to kind of talk to and, like, discuss these problems with, and, like, just understand how the industry works from a, from a high level perspective, how just the interview
Yeah.
process should be, for example.
Hmm.
So yes, so I yeah, taking one step back, I would say, like, it was like, I would say, at least in my case, it was half of, like, the lack of preparedness from a, core knowledge perspective, and half from a lack of knowledge of just how the industry works. You know, so but
Yeah.
yeah, thankfully, my, you can say, at that time, my CS skills, the limited skills that I have, helped me crack TCS, and I kind of decided that, okay, let's just start with TCS, and yeah, like, join the company,
Hmm.
and at least get my enter this industry, and then hopefully see if we can get better, and, like,
Yeah.
hopefully move forward.
So you were basically like, uh, uh, to summarize, it's like you were an automobile engineering student, and in the fourth year, you basically change your mind to move to software engineering. And then you basically went through the 3 year course material, what the actual CS engineer goes through. And then you try to matlab, reach out to like different maybe startups or something to give you an actual software engineering job. But that didn't work out because of the lack of experience or
Yes,
the difference in the background they're expecting, right? So
yes.
finally, you ended up with a campus placement, which was TCS, right? So
Yes.
how long did you work for TCS?
So I worked for TCS for 2 years.
So okay, so you worked for TCS for 2 years, and did you directly go from TCS to Microsoft?
No, no. So yeah, if CJ, you're okay, I just want to spend a little bit, like 2, 3 minutes on my thesis experience, so that it helps people, like, if they have
Yeah.
to about my
Yeah, I
journey.
think
Yeah, that's all.
it is going to a good idea because there are a lot of people who are from the service based background and are looking to switch from the service based background to the product based background. So it is going to help them as well. So yeah, go ahead.
So I would, so when I got my offer from TCS, so I would say TCS shared a lot of resource material in terms of their own expectation of the preparedness from their incoming employees. So we actually got a bundle with containing like subject material ranging from SDLC right to Python programming, because Python is like one of the easy languages for a fresher to begin. This was actually tailor-made for people who are not coming from a CS background. So, and the expectation that TCS has for its employees for people to take it very seriously, and then hopefully they can study the material and then join the company. And also, I'm not sure what the current the current hiring model that TCS has. Not, I won't say the hiring model, but more of an onboarding model. But it is in those times we were given assignments, and there were tests that we had to complete, and these tests were based on the material that TCS had sent, and based on the test scores, whoever used to have a higher score, they used to have a faster joining. So I would say, at least in my case, I diligently went through those materials, not just from the perspective of me getting a sooner hiring, although that was also in my head, but also for just like understanding how exactly what exactly do I need to know from a joining perspective. So I kind of trusted, I would say, thesis in that aspect to kind of help me get briefed about what I need to know. So, and that helped me. Like I got a very quick joining, I would say, compared to my peers. I passed out in June, as almost every person does, and then I got my joining date was August, so which is quite early. So most people end up joining, like say, in those times, like in those when I was young, when I was a fresher, they used to get their joining dates ranging from October till like January, February. So they had to like basically sit out for like 3, 4 months or maybe even 6 months. So that helped me join faster, and it's all about you getting more experience and then be able to use that experience to move forward.
Yeah,
So yes, that helped, and I really want to stress upon this because and this is also from not just thesis, but I have my ex roommate was actually from Infosys, and from what I heard, the Infosys training is also very very good. The training that they take up at Mysore.
yep,
So the reason I'm even mentioning is because I think freshers don't take these things seriously, because I used to see that in a lot of people, but do take these trainings very seriously. If not from the perspective of you doing better in these companies, but just from the perspective of you understanding more about how the industry works and what you need to learn from what is expected of you, sort of. So yeah, these trainings are very well designed, so please do take them seriously. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I have also heard the same things about the Infosys training in the Mysore campus as well. Like it's really really good, and it like really ramps up the individual in the span of just 6 months, and actually led them through the entire journey of the software engineering life cycle. So it's really good, and the people who really focus a lot in these trainings actually do a lot better, after 1 year or 2 years working in the same industry. So yeah. So what do you think? So after TCS, like what did you do? Like where did you work?
Yes. So when I had completed almost 1.5 years in TCS, I kind of started to think of moving on. So I started, first of all, even before I started any preparation, I first started talking to people who had already started giving interviews as to what kind of questions they were being asked, so that I can understand the expectation, the general expectation of companies, and what they're looking for, and how exactly what should one approach. So I kind of so I made a list of the stuff that people were being asked in other companies. So then I divided my preparation into two buckets. So one was a slightly, if I could move to a slightly better service-based company, what should I be doing? That was like bucket one. And bucket two was entry-level product-based companies. What do they want, and what I should be focusing on if I want to get to that? So I knew that it was a challenge for me to still go into product-based companies, because I could see that even in the few interview experiences that I had already gotten by that time. I'll come to how exactly I started giving the interviews also, because that itself is a very interesting topic for people. I did realize that many product companies, at least in that time, and I think it's there still also, they're not very keen on having a thesis guy or an Infosys guy to join them. They do look for another product-based company person to switch to their companies. So I knew it was a bit of a challenge, but then I mean, yeah, it was worth taking it. So what I realized from my understanding based on the experiences that I got from other friends of mine was services companies are focused on stuff like the core OOPS principles. How exactly does one end up design a constructor? The difference between interfaces, how what's an abstract class was an interface. You get it, difference between encapsulation versus abstraction. So there was this preparation that required me to understand, get deeper into OOPS principles, for example, and Java principles, how does a web service work, for example, the core principles, the theoretical stuff, basically. And from for the product-based companies, I understood that DSN algo is something that they require. They don't require a very they do not require a master in DSN algo, but they do require someone who's very good at least the basic data structures. He's able to solve. The person is able to solve most of the easy to medium problems that we can say in Lead code, not the hard ones, but at least mostly easy and medium type questions. So I started preparing. So thesis, I would say, my work hours were fairly, you can say, like defined. I used to work from 11 o'clock till 7 o'clock in the evening. So I used to devote 2 hours every morning just to prepare myself. That was the time when I started using HackerRank. I heard from friends that HackerRank is a very good website to kind of brush up your DSN algo skills, improve your skills. So I started doing them. So 2 hours every day in the morning, I used to devote to solving HackerRank questions. And
Mm-hmm.
along with that, I used to also start applying to companies. So this was the phase when the you can say the very popular phase was actually being used for me, the apply no reply. So I used to send out
Yeah, that's
five
a
six
very painful
resumes.
thing.
Yes, yes. Again, I really want to stress upon this because I didn't do that, and I would not want others to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
People think that it's just about being able to solve questions and then tracking the interview and then going forward with it. But actually getting your entry, getting an interview opportunity itself is a task in itself.
Yeah.
And the easiest way, and this is I really want to stress upon this, the easiest way that you can actually get an interview is just to get a referral. And to
Mm-hmm.
get a referral, you need to have contacts. And to have
Yeah.
contacts, you need to meet and read the right people. So,
Yep.
folks, yeah, please try to create, a large contact list. Talk to people who are in the industry, get them, to know you,
Mm-hmm.
use their help to actually get these interview opportunities. So I would say I didn't do that much, and I suffered because I had to spend a little bit more time. But thankfully, I learned the ropes. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyways, yes.
So
So
whenever it comes to the preparation, right? Whenever it comes to the beginning of the preparation, there is this dilemma in the students, like which language they should pick. Which should it be Java? Should it be C++? plus plus? Should it be Python? Like, what do you suggest here? Like, what is the answer to this dilemma?
I would say any language is fine. I have
Mm-hmm.
not been into any interview or put any company for interview wherein they restricted me to code in any specific language. So any language that you are personally comfortable with, you should be trying to at least when you're in the initial years of the career, you're a fresher or having 2 or 2.5 years experience. You just try to get yourself very good in one language of your choice. It may be Java, it may be C Sharp, it may be Python, it may be C++, and be good enough that you can answer any question when it comes to that language. So it's not just like you being able to solve the DSLO questions using that language, but also a little bit about the intricacies of the language itself that make it different from other languages. So you should be you should be very good in one language, any language of your choice. And at the same
Yeah.
time, people should also understand that you should not that a developer is not restricted by the language that he or she uses to code. Once the fundamentals are clear, you could use any language. Language is just a tool that you use to develop software. So a person who's good in Java can spend 2-3 weeks and get himself familiar with Python enough to kind of start using Python on its coding day-to-day basis. And the other nuances of the language that make it different from other again, this is only restricted to you can say software that is being developed on a mass scale. For example, I when I say if you're someone who's using Java, then I'm presuming you're coming from an enterprise software development background. You use Java as a primary language to develop your backend softwares. You may be using Spring Boot. We may or may not get into those details, but I hope
Yeah.
your listeners are at least a little bit familiar
Yeah.
with
So
those.
it's more on the basis of like you just pick one and start learning it
Yes,
instead of
yes,
wasting time
yes,
on which one to actually pick.
yes.
Right.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
it's like, so you mentioned that you were preparing every day for 2 hours, so allotted, like, and we have heard like, there is a general preparation scheme that solve at least one problem a day. So do you really think that only solving one problem a day would actually make you good enough to be able to, actually clear the interviews at this level? So how do you think, like you said, like you spent 2 hours preparing, right? So did you only solve one problem, five problems? Like how many did you try to do? And what was the
So,
structure while approaching these like data structures problems?
so I had started preparing for 2 hours every day, and then I slowly ramped it up to 3 to 4 hours actually. So like I started preparing just in the mornings, and then later, based on my interview experiences, the kind of questions that were being asked, and my own realization of the skills that I didn't have, I started spending more time. So I started spending the weekends also, the evenings also to prepare more. That is like one thing. Though now to coming to your actual question, no, I don't think one question a day would be enough. One needs to definitely put in more effort. They need to solve more questions. So I would say it for just to get your feet dipped into this field of learning, for example, DSN algo, and getting yourself just started off. So we will probably just do like aim for like a question or two on a day, and then slowly ramp up. In my own experiences, I prepared on a, I wouldn't say on a hardcore level, but I did put in a lot of effort during the 3 to 4 month period. Like I started preparing in January, and then I got my offer in July. So
Hmm.
the April, like the March, April, May phase was something that I would very much into getting cracking a company. So I was spending 4 hours, and I was actually I think cracking 5 6 problems a day. So, and yeah, I think starting you can aim for a question, and then automatically the more questions you do, your speed will also improve. So I can all so yes, to answer the question, one definitely needs to do more than one question a day. Maybe at the start it's okay, but one needs to ramp up.
Hmm.
What I can share from a you can say from a numbers point of view is that you can estimate that if you if you have you come from the the background that I came from, and you want to move to say like an entry level product company, then I would say like approximately 100 to 150 questions in HackerRank may help you crack an entry level product company, which is what I
Hmm.
cracked at that time.
Hmm.
So yes, 100 to 150 level questions will be fine. One should focus on the easy to medium questions. Hard is probably not something that you want to try out. So I think, I mean, if you can try if you want to, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But that is not the expectation. If
Hmm.
one still wants to do it, I would highly suggest because it does help you broaden your mind. So, but
Yeah.
then there's also this angle that as a fresher or as a person who's just like like a little bit of an amateur in these things, one may get demotivated. So like that is not that is a trap that one should avoid.
Yeah, on
So
that
yeah.
note, I guess the demotivation part, I think a lot of students or the starters, like let's call them starters, they can be working somewhere or they can be college students. So I think when it comes to the interview preparation, they know that they have to prepare data structures and algorithms. And what I have seen that there is a common mistake which they do is they go to Code Chef or they
Mhm.
go to Top Coder or or the other these competitive programming websites, and there they start to solve the easy questions, and some of them are able to solve those easy questions, but as soon as the difficulty level starts increasing, the motivation starts to decrease. So do you really think it's actually a good idea to like in the starting of your preparation itself to jump on a code chef or I mean a competitive programming website, and just like, do you really think that software engineering interviews are aligned with the standards of competitive programming? And for if we want to clear software engineering interviews, how much do you think competitive programming is required, or is it even not required? Like, what do you feel there?
CP is definitely required if you're aiming to join Microsoft, Amazon, Google right when you pass out of college. So the kind of questions that these big companies ask you, yes, they're definitely at par with the question that one solves during CP. So yes, if that is your aim, definitely one should start focusing on CP. But that also means that you're already having done the preparedness. You're already at that level wherein I was, you can say, when I was in TCS. So that is something that you've already achieved by the time you're basically like passing out of second, like completing a second year and joining third year. So yes, to answer your question, yes, CP is required, but only for these big level companies. If you
Hmm.
wanna again. if one wants to join Microsoft Amazon, then they need to be good at CP. But if one wants to join a product level company, say Oracle, ServiceNow, like you can say like slightly a company that is slightly at a lower level, then I would say CP may not be necessarily required, but a good understanding of DS and algo, a good base, and a good solid base in solving DS and algo is definitely required.
But
So yes.
there should be an order, right? Like I have seen like first year students or second year students just they start solving these competitive programming problems just like that, and they get stuck and they like on one problem sometimes they waste like 3 days, 4 days just trying to come up with a solution for the problem they are trying to like solve. And do you like I personally don't like this approach where they like for one problem they are like spending 4 days. And so what do you think, like, so the way I think is like it's taking them so much time is that they don't have the background of data structures to be able to deal with that problem. So what do you think the order should be? Like, when does competitive programming kick in? During the preparation? And when do I or when the person who is doing the preparation gets to know that okay, now he's good enough, like to be able to clear the software engineering interviews if he chooses to do competitive programming?
I would say, yeah, definitely one should definitely not start off with code chef, code forces in the first year or second year, especially in the first year. One can start off with HackerRank. I think HackerRank has a very good bundle of questions that follow the easy to medium category. So it would help the fresh it would help these young college graduate to get themselves ready in terms of understanding what exactly is required from you in terms of the DS algo skills. So solving a bunch of easy questions like on a 6 months basis and then moving probably to the medium questions is something that I would personally advise just on HackerRank. And once you have done approximately 100 questions on HackerRank and you feel that you are reaching a point wherein you can solve most of the easy questions in a half an hour's time span, and maybe it's taking you like an hour or like slightly more, like like between 30 minutes to 1 hour in a medium level question. Maybe then I think it's time for one to kind of try out something like Lead Code, for example. Lead Code is, at least in my experience, a very very good website. The questions are very well defined in terms of the information that they share. There are no hidden nuances, which at least I felt in HackerRank. But again, every website has their own pros and cons. The levels of lead code are very well defined. Easy questions are defined as easy, mediums are defined as medium. Sometimes I felt HackerRank was not really, like I used to occasionally be stuck with a very hard problem that was actually marked as medium, and then there was like a medium problem that was like quite easy. So, but then again,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's okay. It's like a very rare thing. But anyways, HackerRank is something that one should start off with, and then probably graduate to lead code and do a good number of questions in lead code. I think one reaches that comfort level in lead code wherein they've done like close to again like 100 to 150 questions. I think that is probably the time that one should start thinking of doing something like Code Chef, Code Forces, probably doing a few of the contests that require you to do questions on time bound manner. So yes, I would personally suggest like until the person starts off with the second year, even in the second year, probably once they start off with the first sem, they should just stick to these websites. Because again, if one starts off with CodeChef at the start itself, they would very easily get demotivated. CodeChef, Codeforce, they're designed for a little bit of a pro kind of a person. So one should know their limits. They should not directly jump in because it's just gonna bite them. It's not gonna work for them. So yeah, start off with
Okay.
HackerRank.
Yeah. So I guess like this aspect of the preparation covers one dimension of the interview, which is actually solving the problem, right? So actually getting to the solution. So my question is like, is only solving the problem enough? Or during a software engineer interview, let's say we are talking about the level one, the software engineer one level. So do you only look that if the candidate is able to solve the problem, or do you also look for additional qualities uh, like regarding the code, how good the code is, how extensible is it? Like, what are the other qualities apart from the problem being solved? Do you look for? for a engineering interview, so that you know that like which these qualities can actually get you extra points and increase your probability of getting hired over other candidates?
So I would say at the starting level, one is not expected to be good at, you can say, like writing the perfect code. Like that is not really the expectation. So the expectation is that you should be able to write code on your own with some guidance from your seniors, and the seniors should be able to help you in ensuring that the code quality is production is like fit for production. So yeah, so you should focus on your basics. You should focus on like basic OOP skills, like when exactly should you be like the architecture, the very basic three-layered architecture, for example. How exactly should you be designing a system that can actually connect to the database and still be scalable enough that in the future you can switch to a database, or you can switch the database to another system. So you should start off with the very basic stuff. So just have basic knowledge on how exactly you should be approaching a problem and solving it, and then probably take it forward from understanding things like, yes, ensuring that the code is extensible, ensuring that the code is testable. But yeah, anyways, I would say for a starting person, for a person who's just about to get into coding, you may understand these things, but I would say at least from your initial prepared the time that you're focusing on the preparation, you may or may not give so much time to that. So just stick to the DS algo is something that I would personally advise. And
Hmm.
also another thing that I am just remembering right now is the importance of internships. It's highly, highly important for people to try and do as many internships as possible. I mean, again, try to balance them with vacation time and ensure that you're actually getting enough time off of college to be able to give time to your personal hobbies and stuff. Like jumping directly from college right to an internship and then from internship back to college is probably not something that I would advise. But yes, try to make that balance. But do try to take at least two internships during the 4 years that you have, preferably even more. But again, depends. I would say the internship itself would be like a great eye opener for a developer to understand the stuff that he's lacking from an industry perspective. So, like things like the mentor in the internship would be helping them guide with the stuff that they feel is lacking in their code. So yes, do as many internships as possible, and again, try to do like a simple internship. Like I am not in personal favor of unpaid internships, but yes, even a company that is paying you 10,000, 20,000 should be fine, in my opinion. But again, it varies. But do try to take up internships, like, use your second year summer, preferably even first year, but that's fine. I think first year like is definitely quite tough. But definitely the second or third year, the mid cap should be taken up for the first internship, and definitely the third to fourth year should be taken up as a second internship. So, and that they themselves should be like great eye openers for people to understand, like, the stuff that they need to learn.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like how exactly the experience changes or the expectation changes
Mhm.
when the candidate is being considered for a senior engineer versus entry level engineer. Like, as I think, according to our conversations, we have already mentioned that only data structures algorithms in
Yes.
solving the problem is required for the first level. But what about
Yes.
people who want to, who are already there in some other org or some other company and actually want to join as a senior engineer, like you did? So,
Yes.
how does the expectation change?
So as you go up the levels, the expectation would shift from you only from just knowing DS and algo to also knowing system design principles, like being good at cracking, being good at designing a high level, a highly scalable system. So and that increases as in how you go up the ladder. So I would say in my personal experience, when I joined Microsoft as an SDE2. So the expectation that was set for me that was that I would be able to solve these algo questions, plus I would be able to solve SD questions. So that is something that one should start to switch their preparation as and how they climb up the ladder, they progress through the years in the industry. For system design, there are numerous resources online that are available and people can refer to. My personal favorite is the Grokking the System Design Interview course from educator.io. I find it pretty nice. It is very well designed in terms of for a person who is not really sure about what exactly is expected from him from an interview, also to just start off and understand, like, what kind of questions can I be expected. So that's like one thing. And another thing is, I think it has probably not come up so far, is uh, even while one is working in a company and they are already focused on, say, switching, but one should still keep on focusing on the kind of work that they're doing from the perspective of not just completing the work, but actually understanding, like what exactly they're doing and its importance and the core intricacies of it. Because and a very important part of the interview is not just you being able to crack the decent level question that you'll be asked, but also the stuff like, okay, what exactly have you done over the past 2 years that you've been working this company? What's your impact in the company? How has your role made a difference to the company in terms of increasing the revenue and stuff? Now, as developers, we do not generally think from a business perspective, and that is understandable. We do not have that mindset, but one does need to understand that unless until they have made an impact in their previous company, they would not be hired for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also something that is taken into account as in how one moves ahead. So I would say, at least in my personal experience, when I was hired for when I was sent an offer from by Microsoft to join the company, a very important component of my interview experience itself was revolved around my past experience in my previous company and what I did and the impact that I'd made. And a very important component of me getting hired was the fact that they liked the impact that I'd made and the difference that I'd made to the company. So that's very important because I personally see with a few of my friends also, they're quite focused on cracking the new company. So as a result of which, they're not really focused on the day-to-day work. It's just about, okay, we have done whatever the manager has asked us and it's done. Let's move on. However, actually understanding the current architecture of your team, how do things work? Why is the architecture designed in the way it is done? How does it even work? So yes, not just focusing on the getting your work done, but also what exactly are the problems that you're solving on a very low level, and why are you solving the way you're solving is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, coming to the original question, system design is very important, and I would prefer my personal suggestion would be educator.io. And yes, actually, and again, this is one thing that I really must stress upon. DS and algo is something that is very required, and it does show up during a day-to-day basis, like when we do work, but not as much as system design principles show up. So a person who is already involved in a good system design problem in his or her current company, they themselves have an edge over people who are just studying these courses and getting the theoretical understanding. Having an actual experience is always good, and you can only get that actual experience if you show that confidence to your manager in your current company that, hey, I am willing to take up the challenge of solving a bigger problem, and I am willing to talk to people who will be able to help me with this, and I am the go-getter here basically.
Mm-hmm.
Having that practical knowledge is always better. So I really want to stress this, while one is focused on switching and moving to a better company, say from say SG2 to senior, from say a mid-level product company to say Microsoft and Amazon, but it is also equally important for you to be able to give the right time and devote the effort and be able to do a very good job in your current company. It's very important. And I can also say this from my personal experience. When I cracked Microsoft, when the interview completed, one of the key factors was also the fact that I had received a lot of awards in my previous company prior to where I was working before to Microsoft, and also in my first company, TCS. So, and that I had put up in my resume, and it was it was a point that had been brought up by the interviews also, like, hey, you seem to have done pretty good stuff. So these things matter. So these
Mm-hmm.
things definitely matter.
I think like for the second part, like the second dimension for the system design, like where you discussed like what the engineer has actually done in his previous company actually explains a lot about how he is or he or she is going to perform in the current company he is interviewing for. And I really liked where you threw certain questions like about the making an impact and being a go-getter and all those things. And I think like one addition to that would be like really documenting everything you are doing so that like I personally myself have faced this issue, like I forget what I have done. So documenting things in your current role and like every day polishing it and trying to rephrase it and make it crystal clear like about the work you have done and then presenting that cooked material in front of someone, like it's going to be really helpful while tackling these kinds of questions, like what is the impact you have created, or what is the you know like what are the kinds of things you have done which helped the previous company grow at a
Yes.
good scale. So yeah, I think that that was a pretty good suggestion. So so far, like uh, so we have gone through your career journey from college. We have covered the how should we do the interview preparation for uh, software engineer one and software engineer twos. And we have also mentioned a lot of resources, like you mentioned the grokking the system design interview for system design. Yeah, I think yeah, that's a really good resource. I have also been through it. Like I think I took the subscription for that in 2016, I guess. Yeah, so and for data structures and algo, you mentioned that students should first start with hacker rank and then probably switch to lead code, and then from there uh, to other platforms, like if they are looking
Yes.
for. So okay, so that's the preparation side, right? And what do you think about the uh, like the roles mock interviews plays
Yes.
while doing the preparation? Like is it just enough to just be able to solve the problem? Like I have seen a lot of students or candidates who are very good at solving the problem. If you give them an id and or a lead code terminal, they'll just give you the best solution possible. But when it comes to explaining the solution to someone else, they're like not doing a good job. So what do you think, how can this be improved?
So yes, it's very important for one to actually give mock interviews and understand how exactly the interview process itself is, and so that they actually have a basic understanding of what they would be going through when they actually go for an actual interview. And even before going to that, I would really stress upon one thing. Soft skills matter a lot. They really matter a lot. So one should actually, if they come from a background wherein they feel that maybe their English skills are not good, they should first try to work on that. Maybe use your flatmate, your roommate, if you're still in college, use your hostel system, your friends in hostel, to try and use the English language more and more, so that your own skills become better. If CJ, if you're okay, I just want to like spend at least a minute on this. It is very, very important for you to know good English. It's very, very important. You can be a master at coding. You would have probably done like like all the questions in lead code, but it like really doesn't make a difference if you are like not able to convey your point. So
So
try to use your college years to get better at English. Try to use the language more and more so that your skills improve. Maybe watch a few TV series, movies, so that you understand the nuances of the language and hopefully pick it up. So yeah, the more you expose yourself to the language, you will get better at it. So that's like point one. It's very important. It's very important for you to be able to convey your point when you're actually in an interview. Now we come to like how exactly you should be ready for the interview. So for that, yes, go through mock interviews. Try to set up a system wherein you set if for a friend who's about to give an interview, try to ask them, like, set up a system wherein you in a timeout manner, you ask them few questions and observe their behavior, make a note of like how they're reacting to questions, how much time they're taking, and then post the interview. So, give them the list. Okay, like, here is where I felt you did wrong. Here is where I felt you could have probably said this, but you probably didn't convey your point clearly. Yes, yeah. Mock interviews are very, very important. Try to have friends help you out with that. You also should be helping your friends. It should never be a one-sided way. It's always good to be working in a team. And yes, and I also see there are a lot of resources nowadays that offer mock interviews, devs who are already in the industry do help out. So you can probably take their help as well, so that you can actually understand. This is my opinion. Like, it may not be correct, but maybe during college itself, when you're giving your first interview, so the mock interviews that you would be setting up or your friends would be setting up may not be as a standard as was expected. So maybe probably take help from people who are already in the industry to help you guide in terms of preparing yourself for the interview. So that's like great. It would really help, and probably ask them to set up one also based on the time availability and stuff. So definitely, I'm all in for mock interviews. Also, every company has their own interview pattern, and so I would highly suggest that people should understand and be prepare themselves for the company who they're joining to. For example, like Microsoft has a certain pattern of in giving an of an interview. Amazon has a certain pattern. So get yourself appraised with that. Talk to your friends who are already in the company so that you can get that guidance and work towards that. I would say. I would say nowadays, especially from what I see, there are a lot of resources online that help you in terms of getting yourself ready for the interview. So use them. Use them. I personally don't know of a website. I think we can check it out. But yes, there are a lot of resources that at least I have come across while glancing
Yeah.
through a few websites. Yeah.
So I think we have gone through most of the content for doing the preparation. We went through like how can a student or a candidate who is not from the CS background can actually switch to the CS background and make progress and be successful in this industry. We have talked about how like where should the uh, starting point be like in terms of picking the language, and then how the journey should progress for learning the data structures and algorithms. But there is this one subtle thing which is there which no one talks about, and it's like uh, placements, and the advantage you get uh, for being in a very good college versus being in a tier 3 college, right? So it's like a student who is in IIT, right? He directly gets to get a chance with maybe Google, Microsoft, or Amazon, or any of these top tech companies. But students at the tier 3 college don't get the chance to be able to prove themselves at the the beginning of the fourth year or just after the fourth year, and they just like and they lag behind. So I think, and even though these people try to apply for these companies for off campus, like on the interview portal, there is a very small probability that the resume gets shortlisted, right? So I have seen a pattern like it generally like for the other half of the students who are not on the tier 1 college side, they have to generally wait for 2 years of experience after their final year, and then they start to actually get some calls from recruiters from these companies as well. So I have seen that there is a very there's a amount of time where the candidate is very stressed about getting the job in this company. So what do you think, like what role does patience play, right? As part of getting the job, because eventually you are going to get it, but since you were not from a certain background, you are not getting that opportunity to prove yourself, right? So what do you think, like how is patience going to help the candidate, and how is it going to relieve stress? Because I have seen the students these days are really stressed about getting hired in a top tech company and not being able to crack the interviews, and the focus has really shifted, you know, from actually being good at software engineering to actually getting a job at a certain, uh, a certain company which is valued or which is seen with golden eyes. So, what do you think? Like, what should the focus of a, like, generically speaking, let's say the given candidate has no advantage or no choice over which college he gets after, let's say, class 12. So what is should or what should be the general criteria for like the mindset of the students, like like how much patience they should have, how much the is the timeline they should be looking at? Because I see like just after the fourth year it's not possible to get a land a job in a top tech company, because I think that they call SD1 SD1, but it's not an SD1. It's a senior engineer, and if you look at the job descriptions for even senior SD1s, they ask for 2 years of experience or 3 years of experience, which a college student might not have. So, what do you think? Like how this phase of the 2 or 3 years of the starting of their career, how they should focus, how they should plan. How did you plan? Like it took you like a quite amount of time to get where you are right now. So how was the, mental state of you? Like, were you stressed out, or were you actually enjoying the work? Like, how is it? How should it be?
So okay, before I start off, I just want to put one thing out so that any viewers who are probably in this phase get pacified. Uh, we have a very long run in the software industry. In an ideal situation, you would probably be spending close to 30 years in this industry. So fear not. Even if you lose out in the first 2 years, it's totally fine, guys. It's totally fine. You would have all the years in the world to cover it up. That's like point one. And secondly, at the end of the day, irrespective of whether you're from a tier one college, tier three college, CS, non-CS, probably after the initial 3 4 years of the industry, everything kind of gets settled out. You're actually put at that level wherein your skills lie. So even if you started off with a little bit of a handicap from the perspective of, say, you not being part of tier one college or not being part of CS, by the time you're in the fifth or the sixth year industry, things would even out for the most part. Sure, there would be a little bit highs and lows, but for the most part, it tends to even out. People who may have joined from a tier one college but they're not good in CS, they would start lagging behind and you would basically overtake them. So yes, I just want to put that out. Now coming to the part of the importance of patience and how should one be mentally preparing themselves for what is coming up ahead. I would say it's very important for people to be very realistic about where they stand and what kind of expectations they should be having also. So a person who's coming from tier three background, like sure, they have a lot more opportunities now compared to earlier years, but still they should realize that a tier one person would definitely have more options to them, especially in the start of the career than them. And let's be very honest, like the way the world works, either one a person who's coming to a tier one college, either they have worked very hard, they have spent the 11th and 12th years of the student life, maybe even more before, to actually being able to crack that initial to be able to give the competitive exams to have reached that level. So they have definitely put in more effort than others to have reached that level. So let us not discredit them for having not made that effort. And the second part is obviously a little bit about the amount of influence that money plays and how students who come from rich backgrounds would have an easier helping hand in them landing a tier one college. So that is definitely there. But I really want to stress upon one thing. I think in the industry, especially the media tends to overblow these things. There are not that many rich people in the world as we think. There are not that many people who tend to take advantage of their money to reach a higher level. That's a very minuscule level. But for the most part, it is mostly one's merit and one's hard work that put them at a higher pedestal. So yes, definitely a tier one person will have more advantages compared to you. But then it's okay. You should that's fine. For again, if you're a part of a tier three college, you should understand that it's going to be hard, and accordingly, you should tailor make your progress, your approach to reach that level. So, in an ideal situation, I would say for a tier three college person who wants to get into Microsoft right from college itself, they better start devoting the second year itself, putting their effort from second year itself into reaching that level wherein they may actually crack a Microsoft interview if they even get a call by the time they're in fourth year. So the progress has to be little what more faster, I would say. One needs to put in more hours than say a tier one college may do. So that is definitely there. They need to spend more hours doing lead code, doing hackathon, probably starting code shift and stuff. And yes, that is that. And yes, CJ, as we also discussed, a person from a tier three can definitely get a very good ranking in code shift, code forces, and get the eyes of HR recruiters from these big companies. So, but then to actually be at that level, one you should be able to be very good at these. So yes, I think from that perspective, at least in my own honest experience, CP is probably the very easy, is the most clear cut route to be able to crack Microsoft interview. If Microsoft, Amazon, for example, if one wants to crack. So have a good CP ranking, have excellent profiles in CodeShift, Codeforces, Top Coder, so that your profile, your resume is noticed. And also, again, I'm not very sure how much people know this, but there are certain recruiters within these big companies that are actually hunting for tier three college guys all day long. Their primary jobs are to basically find these gems, hidden in tier three colleges that use these metrics like, people's CodeShift rankings, CodeShift Codeforces rankings to actually determine these students. So yes, focus more on these. Have a good resume, have a very good CP profile so that your profile gets noticed by top recruiters. Now, if due to multiple circumstances one is not able to devote that much time to CP for whatever family reasons and stuff, or maybe they feel that they need more time, they should definitely aim to just join any other company, say a slightly lower level product company, and then spend the 2 years that they're working to actually use that time to ramp themselves up for, say, Microsoft, Amazon. That is totally fine. That's totally fine. So yes, but then that expectation should be very clear in their head. I would say the real reason why I personally feel, again, this is like very subjective. The reason for the increased stress among teenage and young adults right now, increasing, rates of depression among people is also because of mismatched expectations. That's just my opinion, maybe highly subjective, highly biased. Yeah, so one should have reasonable expectations, I would say. Like, let us not aim for stuff that is not possible. So let us have our hopes limited. It is very good to be extremely ambitious, but ambition may itself bring some downfalls also. So set
Yeah,
reasonable
I think you're right here, but I think whatever the expectations, let's say, are being set, right? So I think we should always, or the candidate should always allocate a good amount of, well thought and planned time,
yes,
rather than
yes,
just just thinking in the air like, okay, 6 months down the line, I'm going to crack the company, the interview of a certain company. Because, see, I believe that clearing an interview is just the candidate or the person who is giving the interview, it's not 100% in his control that he is going to get the
yes,
offer. Like, it's like if you are putting 100%, the company also has to put 100% from their side, so that both of you get along with each other, and then you eventually end up getting an offer. So I think the planning should be more well thought, rather than having expectations just
yes,
and I think due to this stress also, like a lot of the focus of actually loving the software engineering has changed from the actual love to actually the monetary benefits
yes,
parts of
yes,
it. Like,
yes,
I have literally seen people like craving uh, for offers for companies which give food. So, like, I think we should, in the initial phases, or initial career time, I think after you land your first offers, we should really be patient for the next 5 years, and actually build a certain amount of experience and not care a lot about the money. Like, if you
yes,
are somewhere near the average, then it's a good thing. And uh, and what else? Like, yeah, and keep striving for whatever the goal you
yes.
have in the mind. So yeah, I think that's like, you covered it actually well, and I also really like the fact that you did not discredit the hard work of the students who actually get to the top of the, tier one colleges, and get this privileged opportunities, because they actually deserve it, because they have put the work before. And I think at the end of the day, if you remove the time factor and just keep the work factor, right? So all of you, or all of us, have to work equally hard to be able to achieve, you know, the kind of offers, or the kind of designation or positions you are expecting in this industry. And I think that's the way to go for it.
Yes.
So
Seriously, one thing that I'm thinking that I think maybe it has not come up in this video, maybe you have already covered in one of your previous videos, is the importance of discipline and
yeah,
consistent hard work. It
consistent
is
and
highly important. Yes, it is highly important for people who are trying to say, join a better company, working for the interviews, to be consistently doing, the regular, like, say it's better that one does, say, 2 questions, 3 questions on a daily basis than have this kind of like a trust and craft, like, say one day one does five
yeah,
questions and then 3, 4 days there are
yeah,
0 questions. That is
exactly.
not good. That is not
Exactly.
good.
I like, you actually reminded me of this thing. Like, the I have a few friends who were actually pushing their, everyday daily practice code to their GitHub account, to because the GitHub app, there's that heat map of
Yes,
the
yes.
code, and it shows actually how much you are performing. Like like used to ask people in my early days of my career, and I was very surprised with the answer. Like, if the like the person in question, let's say, he's saying that he wants to prepare for a FANG company, right? And when you ask that person, like, okay, in the last 60 days, how many hours have you actually spent coding apart from, the college work or apart from the office work you are doing? Like, how much code have you put in? And to my surprise, the answer was zero. Or, uh, like it's like just procrastinating. Like, outside of work they are not putting the extra, they're not solving the problem, they're not coding. Or it also, I have felt that it's not only about coding, the data structure problems. Like, what are you making any side projects? Are you making something? Are you building something? Are you using your skills and trying to consistently improve? And those things are just not there. So I think it will really help, like, if you actually, as we mentioned before, document what we are doing. And I think that the best way for any candidate is to uh, document their hard work on GitHub, I guess, because I've seen my friends, like, they have this entire full complete chart of 365 days of coding, and they have put it on LinkedIn, and like feeling very good about it. And it's actually quite a very big deal to be able to keep up with that discipline for straight 1 year straight, like solving two or three or maybe 5 or 10 problems every single day again and again. It's like, yeah, that discipline, consistency, and perseverance is very much required in order for us to clear the interviews. And I think there is only one thing we have not covered yet, and it's more on the grounds of actually writing the code. Like, I've seen, like, people are able to solve questions given an ID, but if you give them a blank piece of paper, they are not able to, sometimes I have seen, like, people are not able to declare an array.
No, no, no,
so
no.
so what do you think is the best solution for this? Like to be able to get fluent with the coding. Like, some companies, like, I think these days the interview standards have changed, and mostly all companies give you a laptop to code in your interview. But even if you're given a laptop and you don't have any, internet to check or look the syntax or for that code, like, what do you think is the best way to get uh, fluent with coding?
I would definitely say for people who are just starting, learning to code, like, just starting off with doing these scenario questions, getting the basics of the language correctly, whichever they're using, they should definitely not use an ID. Definitely not an ID. Maybe just use any notepad tool that is of your preference, Sublime, Notepad++, the standard notepad is fine. So that you can actually write the logic with all the boilerplate that comes with the syntax that you're using, whichever language you're using, completely on your own, as you just said, like, declare the array completely, declare the class as it is expected, you know, and then copy it and then paste it to an ID and then try to compile it there. So that you
Yeah,
can actually yourself understand, like, hey, I forgot to add this import, or hey, this declaration is wrong. So
yeah.
use the
I,
standard word for it.
I still remember in my initial days, like, this is like around, this is 2021, right? So we are talking 7 years back in 2014. So I was not very good. Like, it was my second year in my college. And from that, I really noticed that if you actually write the same piece of code again and again and again, like, it's not about just submitting your solution once on lead code. Like, you literally have to write, 50 times or 60 times manually by hand, like, making sure that you have, like, put every single tokens and syntax correctly. And it really helps to build that muscle memory, because at the end of the day we will be using our hand mostly, or in a whiteboard interview we'll be using our hand to code, and that muscle memory is very much required to be able to come up solutions easily. Because I have seen, like, the confidence is like super different between individuals who have that muscle memory of writing code fluently, without thinking, and someone who has to actually think and spend a lot of time remembering the syntax saves a lot of time in the interview, and you maybe will be able to solve one more problem which
Mhm.
can give you an additional edge over the other candidates who are interviewing within the same day, like,
Yes.
so that happens. Yeah, I think.
And CJ, yeah, I'm thankful that you brought this up because it just made me remember my own interview experiences. I am sure now with COVID and stuff, the interview pattern itself has changed. Like now everything is being done online. But on my all my previous interviews, there have been at least one or two rounds, I think minimum of two rounds when I actually had to write code on paper. Every interview. I've been given a pen and paper and then I've been asked like, okay, this is the problem, solve it. So yeah, if one is constantly developing problems only on the computer using an IDE, then they would definitely start to have that hesitation if they're writing on pen and paper. So
Yeah.
the point is not just to use pen and paper, but to actually use a non-IDE system wherein you actually have to write the code right from start to end. There's no
Mhm.
autocomplete happening. There's no help that you're getting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
true,
say
true, true. Exactly. And I have also seen some of the candidates, like while taking interviews, as an interviewer, I have faced candidates who like cross question you, like, why is this problem even relevant? Why are you asking me a data structure? Or have you faced any interview candidate like that with your interview experience at Microsoft
so.
while
So far, I
taking
have
an
not.
interview?
Yeah, I have personally not started taking any interviews yet. That I have not been through that. But okay, yeah, the question that you asked is quite an interesting question because I have heard this from other friends of mine who have started taking interviews that this does come up quite frequently. If I have to give my personal opinion where I stand, I think DS and algo is very, very important.
Yeah.
Probably may not be as important as some people think, probably not as less important, but it definitely have a big role to play. It's one of the only fundamental you can say one good approach to judging a person for their capabilities. Like if you
Mm,
start asking them questions say on C programming, then they might or might not be good at C. If I start asking you Java programming, you might not be good. So what exactly should I be using as a metric to judge you, how good you are, how bad you are? So
yeah.
DSNL is a very good way to judge. And yes, it is true that the kind of DSN algo problems that people may be solving, say on codes or code forces, one may not actually go to that level on the day-to-day coding, but definitely you can see the easy to medium level question that let's say asked on Git code, they do show up during day-to-day coding. You do end up using DS, for example, in a lot of places. You do end up occasionally writing algos that require you to ensure that your program is very efficient. It doesn't is not resource intensive. As a literal example, I can say if you were to design an API wherein you've written an ON square program, now it it definitely feels very bad from a CP perspective or from a general coding perspective. But in the case of an API, is this that the ON square structure is going to take a lot of time to respond? The API response time is going to increase. So yes, it is very important. May not be as important as say some people might say, but it definitely has a role to play. And that's like one thing. Like the other thing, at least this is my own life experience, the more you do DS and algo, the better you get in your day-to-day work in terms of writing more efficient code, writing more scalable code,
Mm,
writing code that is more long lasting. It just it's a very natural you can say like the tenets of DS algo slowly start to simmer in your day-to-day coding. You would automatically start to think, hey, I've written this code structure, can it be more efficient? Can I
yeah.
make use of like a library that may help me actually save up my the resource time? Like for example, say in the case of an API, it may respond fast, the overall the processing time will reduce. So yes, it definitely has a role to play, I would say. And
And
people could.
personally, I think it also creates a negative impact among the interviewers when someone like quotes like that, like, why is this even relevant? Because I personally feel that it gives a negative impression on your profile, that you are not someone who has the, who has been to the depths of the engineering, and has not really experienced the notion or the importance behind why exactly we are doing this, right? And not understand the value and what it brings to the table when it is practiced. So I think, yeah, any of the viewers who is watching this, it's a very important suggestion to you, that never, never, backlash at the interviewer.
Yes.
that okay, why is this relevant or something like that. If you don't know or haven't experienced this kind of interviews before, just take it like that into account and just prepare well for your next one. That's what
Yes,
I can
yes,
say.
yes,
Like it's not a bad thing to not know something, but it's
yes,
you should not at least criticize the
yes.
interview process, because that's how it is, and it's been here for ages, and it won't change. As long as I know, as far as I know, I don't think it is going to change even in the near future. What do you think?
Definitely, it's gonna be a part. And also, one thing that I thought I'll share it with your viewers is, it's not just that developers are asked these DSN algo questions. At least here in Microsoft, even managers who tend to apply for managerial roles, they also have to go through a DSN algo round, at least one or two, maybe not all, like entry level freshers, but definitely at least one or two rounds. So it is there for everyone, anyone who's applying to any level, as long as they're part of the software field, either as an EM or as a dev, they have to do that, and it's very
Yeah,
important.
that's exactly. I think I was really inspired when I got to know that the CTO of Amazon, right? He is a top coder red.
Oh my,
So
that's awesome.
so I was like, so this really reflects that it's not just for the engineers, it's at all the levels. And being an engineer, you carry that problem solving process throughout the career ladder, no matter where you are at this point in time. So yeah, I think it's been a really good discussion. I think we should mark this as a podcast because it has crossed the time limits of a small discussion, and I think this is going to be a very important video for anyone who is uh, starting or planning to jump in this ocean of the interview preparation phase, and trying to go through the get better at data structures, algorithms. And we have actually covered the all those, like different tenets and different scenarios for like different kinds of individuals who are trying to get into this process and succeed with it. So yeah, I think do you have anything else to share, Mohit, like apart from this, or do you think
I
we are good?
I think we've covered most of the stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, if I have to just like sum it up, I would say yeah, be patient.
Yeah,
Be
patience is very
disciplined and
important.
yeah, be disciplined in your preparation.
Mhm.
Keep follow regular schedule in terms of preparing for the interview that you're trying to prepare for. Make it a very regular habit. Try to devote every day at least 1 or 2 hours, I would say, and I think CJ you would also agree. Even to this date, even though we're not regular, you would say, actively pursuing opportunities, we do still given at least 1 or 2 hours even to this date, in terms of brushing ourselves. So like that's the importance of
Yeah,
discipline is utmost. We would say it's a marathon. It's not a race, guys.
I
It's a
actually have
marathon.
come to, yeah. So on that, I have to say that I actually, when you start solving problems a lot, you actually fall in love with solving the problems, and then
Yes.
even though you have cleared the interviews, gotten the offer, you cannot stop solving them.
Yes.
Like I still do, like you said, sometimes I open lead code not for interview preparation, but just to actually go through the process of thinking and framing the solution, trying to calculate the complexity, and like have that you know there is a feeling associated, if you say, like with the accepted green icon on any of the coding platforms, and that satisfaction is speaks like how much you actually love the problem solving process, and not the outcome of what is going to happen with you. So I think, yeah, just love what you're doing. And I think uh, the best advice would be to enjoy the process, because at any given point in time, I think this is an axiom now. this, is, this is a proven truth that at any given point in time, an engineer will definitely be depressed while doing the preparation for data structures and algorithms. And that's true. Like you will get depressed, but if you have to keep enjoying the process, and like that's how it works. Like you have to uh, keep doing, as you said, the discipline, the perseverance, and like coming to solving the problems every single day, writing it by hand and running there and giving mock interviews. Like this is a time-taking process, and it takes certain years to digest that and go through it and be in align with it, and then finally land an offer. So it's not like, and I think we can talk this about in a different video, that your life doesn't change much after
Yeah.
you get the offer, because there are new challenges in the roles, and it's very difficult to cover up those as well. So the race never ends. It's just like you have
Yes.
cleared one lap, and now you are getting ready for the second one. So
Yes.
yeah, so don't forget to enjoy the process, because at the end, after getting an offer, you will be depressed because you're not doing what you were doing. Because like I personally felt that after stopping the preparation, I was like more depressed, not enjoying my
Yes.
life, because there was an empty void feeling that what do I do
Hmm.
now? Like when you are actually putting every single day, maybe 5 hours or 6 hours of preparation after you are working. So now suddenly, if you stop preparing or you have gotten where you are, if you're not enjoying the process, you will suddenly get depressed, and that will be a long time. That will be taking certain time in your uh, schedule to get recover from it and again get back on track. So it's very
Great.
important to enjoy the process. And I
True.
think yeah, we have covered a lot, I think. So let's wrap this up now. I think thanks
Yeah.
a lot, Mohit, for joining me, joining us for a call, and really walking through the entire experience and such in-depth experience of how the mind works when you are actually going through that. So it's really good, and I really appreciate your time here. And it is, I wish and I hope that it is uh, actually going to help a lot of viewers of these channels. It's not a big channel right now, but let's hope whoever watches this video make good progress. And yeah, so thank you for your time, and we will love to have you on another call and a different podcast on some other topic, like after joining the industry, what happens, and like so. Yeah. So do you have to say any parting thoughts? Otherwise, we can wrap
No,
this up.
no. We can wrap this up. Yeah, thanks, CJ, for inviting me. Always happy to help. Yeah, it was a good
Yeah.
experience for us. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and thanks, Mohit. And yeah,
Bye,
bye.
guys.